Mr. Geraint Davies, welcome to our Medibox platform. On the occasion of the Parliamentary Assembly plenary session, you just participated in a side event on, let's say, on your report prepared by yourself on the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, let's say TTIP, and its implications for social rights, public health, and the sustainable development. Let's start with the content and the definition, so functioning of the TTIP. What would you like to say about that? In general, a couple of words.
Well, TTIP is the proposed EU-US free trade agreement, and that would increase the GDP of Europe and America by something like 0.5%, which is good. But there's great concern that there's new powers in it that corporations can use to sue governments when those governments pass laws to protect public health, to protect the environment, that undermine their profits. And that would mean our countries would have to pay the money that those companies could lose from those laws. So we're very concerned about the impact on our democracy.
And what's the main objective of your report?
Well, what we're hoping is that we all want more trade. We want a better and stronger relationship with the United States, and indeed with Canada, because there's a Canadian one as well. But we want to safeguard the rule of law and human rights, and maybe build up to a situation where this can be a blueprint that in fact embraces our obligations in terms of environment, in terms of Paris Agreement, human rights and the rule of law. But we're concerned at the moment that's not what it looks like.
And what do you think, what are your recommendations on that point, and what do you think to have the create a common policies in the member states on
the Council for Europe,
yeah.
Obviously we're supposed to be supporting human rights and the rule of law and democracy, but next week in the Council of Ministers they're likely to agree a provisional agreement for the Canadian EU free trade agreement called CETA. And our worries there is that that will allow these new powers for companies to sue governments who pass laws to protect our environment and public health, if that means those companies lose some profit because of that. So we're minded now to suggest to the EU Council of Ministers that we think they should hold back at least before we've got an assurance that individual countries will be required to ratify that agreement. But that's still unknown until a court decision over another relationship with Singapore is decided next year.
And also, are there any impacts on these partnerships and agreements?
Well, there's concerns. For example, in Britain, the current government is proposing to go ahead with fracking, and it's reducing the taxation on fracking companies. It's allowing planning to be more easily bypassed. If another government comes in and says, actually, we want to tax in favour of renewables instead of fracking, we have planning law to support renewables instead of fracking, the fracking companies can then come back and sue the government for the loss of the money they anticipated making under the original relationship. I mean, secondly, the government in Britain has introduced a tax on sugary drinks to try and curb diabetes and obesity, which is a tremendous problem in Britain and across Europe. And we've seen in Mexico companies trying to sue the government for introducing a tax on fizzy drinks because they will then make less money. So we can't have a situation where transnational governments are able to coerce and pressurize governments into changing laws or to not introducing those laws if those also protect public health and protect our environment. That's why I want to stop, and that's why we want the EU Council next Tuesday to pause and not agree the provisional agreement on the Canadian Free Trade Agreement that would give these powers to companies so that US subsidiaries could use the Canadian relationship as a Trojan horse to sue European countries.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.